Hi, friends. It's Heidi M. back with another interview to share with you. This time, I'm going to be speaking with Ontario-based chiropractor, Dr. Dwight Chapin. He and I met at the book launch for his latest book, Take Good Care, 7 Wellness Rituals. And I wanted to share thoughts on the book with you, but also I wanted to share where this project came from in terms of Dr. Chapin's work. And for those of you who know me from covering arts and culture events or festivals around Toronto and abroad, I do have a passion for wellness and healthcare, as I am a healthcare worker in my 9-to-5 job. And I also am somebody who wants to do well and do more self-care rituals. So I thought this is important information to share with you. It is interesting. It is also something that hopefully will inspire you and bring some awareness on things that we can do every day to make us feel better and also lead towards better wellness as well. So here's my chat with Dr. Dwight Chapin. Good afternoon. Nice to be speaking with you virtually, Dr. Chapin. I'm really excited to talk to you about wellness today.
Thanks, Heidi. It's great to be here.
Thank you. Before we get rolling, I kind of want to make sure some of my followers are familiar with your work. So perhaps a bit of an introduction of what you do for a living and what your latest project is.
Sure. So I wear many hats. Coming up on my 25th year of clinical practice as a chiropractor. My clinic is in west end of the GTA in Mississauga, High Point Wellness Center. Clinic's been around since the late 70s, so we have deep community roots. And in the practice, there's a family practice that handles musculoskeletal health, but there's also a corporate wellness division where we provide corporate health promotion programs and on-site services for large corporations. One of those businesses is the Globe and Mail. So I'm the on-site clinician for the Globe, and I handle all of their ergonomic issues and repetitive strain injuries that may come up. And then the third division of the practice is a sports performance division, where we handle individual athletes, amateur and pro, and support teams. So we're the team chiropractors for the Toronto Argonauts, and I'm the lead clinician for the team. So I kind of vary my clinical role into all three of those buckets. And when we fell into the pandemic and I suddenly had a bit more time on my hands, I was always interested and passionate about taking some of the writing experiences that I had with my work with the Globe and Mail, where in addition to providing on-site care, I was doing some writing for them as a health advisor. I decided that this was my time to sit down and take that time that I had available to write a book. And that book is called Take Good Care, 7 Wellness Rituals for Health, Strength, and Hope. And it's just released a month ago.
Excellent. Congratulations. And, people probably recognize my writing is usually around, or coverage is usually around arts and culture, but my background is also in health and healthcare. So this is kind of where I gravitate to speaking with someone like you, because it's a nice balance of the two sort of hats that I wear on my daily lives too. So
Sure.
Thank you for sharing that. So you're pretty busy regardless of, whether you're in a clinical role or now in your book. So I had a really great time at the book launch. That's where you and I first connected. And I kind of wanted to share some of what I heard you speak about at the book launch with other people who may not have been able to attend or don't have this on their radar yet.
Sure.
So, I started to look through the book, and I find it quite accessible in terms of the way that it's set up. You have profiles of really interesting, influential Canadians mixed with scientific sort of information in a way that it reads with not too much jargon, which is something that I think we always struggle as clients or even as just everyday people who want to be informed, but at the same time, we don't want to get lost in that scientific sort of realm. When you were thinking of writing the book and you started that process, was your idea that you were always going to include some people's stories to balance out the information that you wanted to share?
Yeah, that's a great question, it's an important one. The reason that I wanted to focus on the mentors, as I call them in the book, is because their stories they're not just powerful, but they're good examples of
Mhm.
how these individuals have taken the 7 wellness rituals and crafted them into their own approach and their own formula. And if I take a step back from that, before I made the decision to write the book, what I was seeing in practice is that a lot of people would end up in my clinics struggling with their day-to-day routines, and that's where their problems would originate from, and in many cases they're unaware of it. So I've had
Right.
the opportunity in my career of working with leaders in all different types of industries, and I see those that achieve a level of success but really compromise their health and well-being in the process. And then
Right.
I see other individuals that reach a level of success and just do so with grace and talent and this ability to elevate not only their own health, but the health of their whole community. And that group, that second group, has always been a group that's really fascinated me. And I've spent my career studying their practices. And so when I sat down to write this book, I knew that to bring the research and the science to life, I needed to tell powerful stories. And that's just something that I've learned in my practice, that when patients are motivated and they understand how their body works and they are given examples of how they may integrate it into their lives, they're more likely to do so. So that's when I went out and came to pull together this group of 21 mentors that are leaders from business, media, entertainment, sport, healthcare, education. And I wanted to really bring their stories to life and showcase the behind the scenes look at their practices. And some of the names are going to grab attention, like Jan Arden's on the list, and Jim Treeliving is on the list, and Canadian Olympian Silken Laumann and Kamika Bingham. And, so there's some names that Canadians will resonate with.
Mhm.
And I think that they'll find it interesting to study their practice, and then maybe perhaps from that learn how they may integrate it into their lives.
Yes, I haven't finished the whole book, so for full transparency, but I have skimmed through most of it. And the stories are really interesting as well in terms of, each person has their own approach, as you said. So it does make me want to kind of talk about, people whose lifestyle may be different. We're not all CEOs, we're not all editors of the
You got
Globe
it.
and Mail, but how do we incorporate this sort of level of practice? So in the sense of, your 7 wellness rituals, why don't we list them? So you talk
Sure.
about first one being about sleep. Maybe I'll leave it to you to maybe list them first.
Yeah, sure. And then let's talk about how to integrate that, because you're absolutely right. I want the book to be an accessible tool that people can use to start to craft their formula. And for many people, it's intimidating. Like, where's the on ramp? How do I figure this out?
Right.
If you're at that point, um, the intention of this book is to help you craft that and to take the pressure off. You don't have to go all 7 at once. And so one of the lessons learned from studying sort of high performers is they really are disciplined in crafting their formula, but it's not a set it and forget it strategy. It's constantly being evolved and tweaked, and they study their adversity and the challenges that they have, and they're constantly making edits and to their formula. And I think that's a really important point that I hope comes through in the book, and I want to make sure carries into conversations on podcasts like this one with you today. And that's that if we treat ourselves with a bit of kindness and forgiveness, and approach each day with a fresh lens, and okay, like today I get to play again. How can I make a difference today, or build on the lessons learned from yesterday, as opposed to being negative in our thoughts or hard on ourselves for decisions that didn't go as planned yesterday, or struggles that we may have had in the past.
Right.
And we can really get in our own way when we get stuck with that type of mindset. So
Mhm.
the rituals, just to go over them, they're likely not going to surprise your listeners. These are concepts that have been in the research for some time. It's a mistake to think of them as just a casual list of healthy habits.
Right.
That's not going to be enough to get your biology under your control. If you really want to tap into your healing potential, what these leaders, these mentors have shown us is that there's this passion and discipline to the commitment to it. And that doesn't mean that they don't make mistakes. I mean, one of the criteria I had for these 21 individuals is that I didn't want these individuals that live these perfect lives or these masters of clean living. Like, as you read their profiles, their lives are messy, just like everyone else's life is, right? So what they do that I think is really unique is that they are kind with themselves, but at the same time, they hold themselves accountable, and they keep track of these 7 rituals. And so as I was studying these practices, meeting with these people, initially it was to study their habits and get a sense of what it is that they're doing. And it wasn't until I was half a dozen or so interviews in that I realized, okay, wait a minute, there's a common thread here. And that common ground, that common thread between their practices is what I call the 7 rituals, or the 7 wellness rituals. So first one is prioritizing sleep, rest, and recovery. The second wellness ritual is consuming healthy fuel. The third one is fighting for your waistline. The fourth ritual is move to stay young. The fifth ritual is protect your strength.
Right.
The sixth ritual is nurture mental fitness. And the seventh ritual is play with purpose. So we can spend some time if you want to go through those, or you want to pick a couple. It's up to you, Heidi.
Sure. I mean, all of them I think are important, at least from my experience as well, because I've gravitated through a formula myself over the years.
Right.
You know, I'm no longer 25. So, you know, I might have had more energy for certain things then than I do now. And, you know, some of the things that are linked to the rituals in the book, I really appreciate. So I like the way that you set up the rituals in terms of you start with a bit of the science, then you also have these sort of good rules, and you have the clinical corner, and also some ritual activation. So regardless of the wellness ritual, there's a way for us to sort of check in with ourselves. And so I do appreciate that in all of those sections, because I think it's important, like you said, is that bringing us to that level of kindness with ourselves and where we are.
You know, it was interesting when I was when I was working on an earlier transcript of the book, and I was creating the profiles of these 21 individuals, I had originally, in an earlier version, taken examples of 3 or 4 of the mentors that really had locked in ritual 1, for example. Like, this was their practice for healthy sleep hygiene. This is how they recovered from a peak performance event. This is how they prioritized rest and how the impact that I had on their performance and so forth. But when I chopped up their formulas, I lost the magic, right? Like, the magic is in how they craft all 7 together. And so I went back to presenting the profiles as 21 separate stories. And so those 21 stories are separated into 7 groups of 3. And then between each group, I present the science for each ritual, and then some clinical recommendations. And that section is really designed to be like you and I in a treatment room together, and I'm coaching you on, all right, here's how you may integrate this, Heidi, into your routine.
Right.
And then it finishes with ritual activation tips or strategies. And this is how you can kind of get yourself moving on any one of the 7 rituals. So what I find with patients that are reading the book and now coming into the clinic with questions or great stories of their success is that most individuals, as they look at the 7 rituals, they will understand right away where they need to start. Right. Most people are like, okay, I really need to get a little bit more play in my life, or I need to start to incorporate some resistance training, or I'm really intrigued how diet and nutrition can slow reverse aging. So that's where they'll naturally gravitate to, and that becomes a great springboard to build their formula. So the access point and how you use the strategies, how you use the toolbook has been designed intentionally so that you can jump in the middle of the book if that's the ritual that you find is of greatest need.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I wanted to point that out to folks, that the book sure, it has sections, but it doesn't mean that you have to start at one. I mean,
Right.
sleep is that priority, but at the
Yeah.
end of the day, we start what we needed the most. I also wanted to discuss a little bit about people who have sort of quote unquote limits because of time,
Yeah.
work, they have two jobs, they have a family to take care of. And sometimes, self-care and doing some of these wellness rituals sort of falls to the background.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, how do you work with clients like that in terms of trying to incorporate, even if it's little by little?
Right. So you need to have a very real conversation about that. And I'm a father of three. My boys are now 22, soon to be 21, and the youngest will be 17 this week. So we're in a very different spot than we were 10, 15 years ago.
Sure.
And when life is crazy, if there's kids at home, or if you're dealing with an elder parent, or if you're dealing with 2 or 3 jobs, or all kinds of different life pressures, it's really important that we find time to prioritize self-care. And that's a big hurdle for people. So I start with, listen, 80% of degenerative diseases are lifestyle driven. What the longevity experts are showing us in the research is we have a profound ability to control the expression of our genes through day-to-day lifestyle choices. And so let's just start with an area of your life that maybe is an area there's vulnerability, right? So let's say it's sleep. And so if we help a patient craft a formula for higher quality, better sleep, if we get them waking up in the morning and doing a 2-minute mobility practice, it's one step closer, right? So let's just do that for 4 weeks. And then from there, build the next step. So it's a lifetime journey. This is not a set it and forget it strategy. And I find that that's just honestly the best way to do it. We all want to have a real quick access point to the fountain of youth where we can turn it around immediately. But as long as we continue to consume, the North American diet that's just full of overprocessed foods, and we overconsume that diet, and we live a sedentary life, and we just say, I don't have time for self-care, we're really putting ourselves at a tremendous health risk.
Right.
And it's a mistake to wait until you have time to dedicate to self-care. So you don't necessarily need to carve out 60, 90 minutes a day and go through this radical lifestyle change. But there is an intentional effort to prioritize your performance and your health. And with small steps, you can really make quite a profound impact on where you end up. And so I hope the 21 stories really reflect that biological truth. And then I present the science behind how and why that works to get people engaged and understanding, a little bit more aware of how their body works.
Yes, I think so. And I know some of them you said in the 7 wellness rituals that you've listed, some of them are very, like you said, common sense, like the sleep and the eating better, the fuel, moving. But I think the ones that I really think that we need to speak about in general more regularly is our mental fitness, our mental health, and the time for play. Because I think as we get to adulting, as they say, we kind of forget what play is like. So that's one that I kind of want to talk to you about, approach to play, and how do we kind of incorporate that in our everyday life, because it can look different for you and for me, right? Yeah.
The study from the branch of psychology into looking at happiness and play is really quite fascinating. The biology of happiness and the science of happiness is a very, very unique field that's growing, and positive psychologists are learning by studying the health advantages of play, and it is becoming a topic of conversation. The biological ripple effect of a simple smile, even if you're not feeling happy, just the physical act of smiling has an impact on our internal chemistry and on our biology, and laughter even more so. And so when we find opportunities to bring a little bit more fun and laughter and enjoyment in our lives, the biological ripple effect in terms of health and performance is really quite extraordinary. I share a quick story with you. I was literally writing the chapter on play, and I was stuck on a part.
Right.
And I was back and forth on this part, and it wasn't coming together the way I'd hoped it would. And I was due to go to a friend's barbecue that afternoon. And so I just said, okay, I'm going to close my laptop. I'm going to go to the barbecue and sort of get a fresh perspective. So I ended up showing up at my friend's house, and there were 3 or 4 couples there, a lot of young kids running around, and the 3-year-old son of my friend, his name's Gavin. Within 10 minutes or so of me being there, Gavin grabs my hand and says, "Let me show you the potato bugs." And I knew Gavin from his father's description of him. This kid is just a super kid and just very creative and adventuresome and curious. And so I followed Gavin's lead, and he walked me down this garden path, and he lifted up this boulder, and he revealed 3 potato bugs and a slug. And like, Heidi, the smile on this kid's face that they were there and he could show them to me, and isn't this amazing? And
right.
And so I had this moment with Gavin, and honestly, every time I see one of those bugs now, I smile and I think of him. And it was just a really great experience for me to really bring me home to what it is I'm trying to talk about with play. And here's the deal. Like, adults seem to forget that it's an important part of health and well-being. And what the research does show us very clearly is that adults that have a good time in life, that choose optimism, choose happiness, and the research shows that in fact is a choice and can be learned, that we are indeed healthier. And is that health linked to the fact that adults that play more are more socially engaged, and there's the health benefit of the social engagement? Or is it that adults that play happen to be better at participating in the 7 wellness rituals, and therefore they're healthier? And what the research is showing us is it is in fact both.
Yes.
There's a ripple effect from the social benefits of play, but also from the other healthy activities that come with being playful. And so I think that, building on the work of Sean Aker and his work of the Happiness Advantage, the research is showing us that happiness can be a choice. And when we practice something as simple as gratitude on a daily basis, we choose 3 things every day that we're grateful for. And we don't just say, I'm grateful for, my breakfast this morning or the sunny day, but we attach a meaning to it. I'm grateful for the way my son gave me a hug on the way out the door this morning, and as I was encouraging him on his his basketball tryout. Like, you attach some type of meaning to the practice of that gratitude, and we do that on a daily basis, we can start to change our perception of our environment. And linking back to Wellness Ritual 6, the idea of nurturing mental fitness is an active practice. We're working on reframing the way in which the body perceives our environment. And when we're locking ourselves into a stress response all day, we become locked into looking for threats. And it's when we're in that mindset, we really stop having fun, and play seems to fall away.
That's a great point, because I think that's very poignant right now as some of us are shifting through this COVID, because it's not quite over for everybody, right? Everybody went through the pandemic a little bit differently. And I would say the 2 of them, number 6 and 7, are very linked in terms of mental wellness and play. Some people were more engaged in play during the pandemic because they reconnected to that side of themselves, and some trying to catch up. So I think, the conversation is this conversation to me is really important, because I was one of the people that needed to get pushed. I started off the pandemic really well. I had my formula, and then, year 2, 3, I was like, yeah, right. And then now I'm kind of like coming out of it again, and I'm finding a new formula to make it work. So I think it's relatable to different people as well.
You know what? This is a really important point, and you're right. People are, as they emerge from the pandemic and they're looking to re-engage socially, it's not necessarily an easy thing to do. One, because of the habits that we have formed, and two, life at times can just seem to move too quickly or to be a little bit too serious. That the value of play is sometimes lost, so we don't give ourselves that time out or that permission. And it doesn't have to be sophisticated or expensive. Like, we're not talking about it always being a week's holiday or something really elaborate. One of the mentors in the book is Dr. Greg Wells, who's a performance physiologist, and he practices what he calls the 1-2-3 rule. And his 1-2-3 rule is for 1 hour every day, 2 days every month, 3 weeks every year, he unplugs.
Right.
Like, completely. He's not online, social. He's with his family or friends. He's intentional with what he's doing and who he's spending that time with. And as much as I like the 1-2-3 rule, like, the timing of it doesn't matter so much. What's important, I think, is that he's blocked that time to be like this person brings value to my life, and I enjoy time with them, or this activity does, and I'm going to really prioritize and protect that time. And I think when we do that, and then you get up to that time in your calendar where this is the hour or two that you had blocked, you get to do what you want. I mean, the experts in play say that play should be unscripted. So go off script, right? Like, go to a new restaurant, call up a friend you haven't seen in a while and go for a walk, or listen to an album you haven't listened to for a while, or like just do something that brings you happiness.
Yeah, thank you for those reminders. So, taking note for myself too. I know we've been talking about the book quite a bit, but there may be some people for whom the book is not a resource because for different reasons, but you do have a website. I don't want to forget about the website, 7wellnessrituals.com. And I came across this idea of joining and the 7-day, I guess, is it a program that you have?
Yeah, the ritual activation program. Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Well, right. We wanted the website 7wellnessrituals.com to be a resource with tools that individuals could go to, whether they had the book or not. The ritual activation video series, I take members of the website, and there's no cost to join, through a 7-day challenge where every day you get a video where I'm describing the rituals and the science behind the rituals, and I share some of the stories learned from the mentors, and then I give a few tips as to how to activate the rituals. So that's a free service. And then built into the website also are a variety of other tools, particularly focusing on rituals 4 and 5 that look more at healthy activity. And Toronto Argonaut quarterback McLeod Bethel Thompson helped me record a number of those videos. So we have McLeod doing a lot of the movement practices that I talk about in the book.
Right.
So patients and or readers of the book, or people that are interested in learning more about the rituals, and they want to see a video on how to go through those practices, that resource is there for them as well.
Yeah, I want to point out, because on one of your maybe all social media platforms, they're probably connected. I saw you did a quick reel on some movements to kind of get you going, right? I took that and I shared it with a couple of friends who I said, hey, I've tried these myself. Like, these are helpful for us, right? So I think we can consume the material from the book in different ways. So I want to make sure that people can go to the website. You can do the 1-week program and then maybe get the book if they don't have it already. So there's different ways to engage with the wellness rituals themselves.
Like every morning I do a mobility practice, and I do it for a variety of reasons. My job is physical. I'm now 50. And so my body's ability to move football players and treat patients all day can be physically demanding. And so if I'm not staying on top of my physical health, I'm putting myself at risk. And so the mobility practices help me move the way I want to move, but it also is a huge part of my mental fitness strategy. And that the first thing I do when I wake up is not check email. The first thing I do is get on my yoga mat and I go through the practice. So there's a video of me going through a version of my mobility practice on the website. And I'm not suggesting that's what people should do. That's
Right.
what works for me. But it just helps people understand that there's a 2 to 5 minute routine that you could find in your day to get your body moving a little bit better. It does help change the way in which your body is aging if that practice becomes a regular routine. And the sense of accomplishment that you feel sort of starting your morning with, you've already checked that box and you've given yourself a little bit of attention and love, I think is very valuable.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you. I think as a lot of us are getting into that age of, no longer 30,
Yeah.
right? We need,
Yeah.
we need certain reminders, because our body will remind us that is not what it used to be. But reminders in terms of keeping that movement going, especially with this lifestyle that we have of, working, whether it's at home, hybrid, or in the office. So there's a lot of need for those little reminders, and I find these sort of short videos really helpful, at least for myself, and I'm sure other people can also relate in terms of, I don't want to read the whole book, I want to hear it, I want to look at a video. So there's ways for people to engage with themselves as well, as with the book. So thank you again, Dr. Chapin. If people want to find out more about the book, are you doing any speaking engagements, or, other than the website, where else can they find you?
Yeah, so we do have an event at our clinic that's coming up on June 22nd. And if anyone's interested in attending that, they would contact High Point Wellness Center. And then there'll be other events that'll be happening at bookstores throughout the city that we'll be having up on our social platforms. So 7 Wellness Rituals on Instagram is going to be where we're posting most of that activity.
Thank you. I'll be sure to link the High Point Wellness Center as well for people who are in that bit of details. Thank you again. Very engaging.
My pleasure. Nice to have this time with you. Take care.
Thanks.